In the stillness between stars, where most telescopes see only black, something flickered. A dim, delayed whisper from the edge of time. Mom, Z14. That's what they called it. A galaxy so far. Its light began traveling toward us when the universe was still learning how to be transparent. Over 13.4 billion years in the making, its photons wandered through expanding space, stretched and softened, until they finally brushed against the detectors of the James Webb Space Telescope. But this wasn't just an old light. It was a wrong one. Spectral analysis didn't just confirm redshift. It shattered assumptions. The wavelength stretch put Mom, Z14 at a time when galaxies weren't supposed to be visible at all. A cosmic infancy. A universe still clouded by neutral hydrogen. Too thick, too hot, too wild to allow for stable formation. And yet here it was. A structure, a shape, a signal. Not noise, not a speck. A whole galaxy. Alive before the sky had even cleared. The engineers thought it was a reflection artifact. The physicists recalibrated filters. They double-checked for lensing distortions. But the glow remained, even brighter in the second pass. A clean arc of light, soft on the edges, jagged at the core, echoing through gravitational warps like a ripple beneath time. Mom, Z14 wasn't receding like other ancient galaxies. It was standing still, anchored in redshift, but increasing in intensity with each observation cycle. Not a flare, not a supernova, just present, as if it didn't care that the universe had moved on, as if it was still waiting for something. Theories began to bloom. Maybe we were seeing a gravitational echo, light looping around a pocket of warped space-time, bouncing across epochs. Maybe it was a statistical anomaly, amplified by gravitational lensing. But deep inside, every researcher felt the wrongness. This wasn't just a light that took time to reach us. This was a light that had no business surviving the journey. Because the more they refined the signal, the more something beneath it began to pulse, subtle, rhythmic, like the afterbeat of a forgotten drum. Too slow for rotation. Too erratic for stellar wind. A flicker in the data that persisted even when mirrored, cropped, or inverted. A light that refused to behave like light. Some said it was just interference, a flaw in the math. But to others, it felt like something else. Not just the beginning of a galaxy, but a moment, preserved, encoded, intentionally delayed. A message not written in words, but in persistence. And so they kept looking, because Mom, Z14 wasn't fading into history. It was getting clearer, and with each observation, the past looked a little less ancient and a little more alive. The light of Mom, Z14 should have been ancient chaos, scattered, stretched, and broken by the sheer violence of time. But when astrophysicists applied spectral deconvolution, stripping the noise layer by layer, something strange survived beneath the blur. A pulse, not rhythmic, not musical, but patterned. Oscillations in brightness across multiple wavelengths, flickering in uneven intervals. Too inconsistent for rotation, too deliberate for chance. A pulse that danced not in sync with any celestial rhythm, but like code, a variable heartbeat from across the edge of the known. At first, they blamed the telescope, thermal noise, sensor drift, redshift bleed. But when the same pattern emerged in data from different arrays, NASA, ESA, even old infrared archives from Spitzer, they had to admit it. The signal was real. It had always been there, hidden in the smear. The investigation shifted from starlight to structure, from chemistry to computation. Inside Mom, Z14's glow was a pocket of ionized gas, glowing not from stars but from motion. But this wasn't the turbulence of cosmic birth. It was smooth, looped, repeating. The gas wasn't orbiting in Keplerian ellipses, like planets around a sun. It was flowing in defiance of Newton, tracing spiral harmonics that bent around an invisible scaffold. Almost architectural, every model failed to explain the shape, until one in turn, mapping the brightness to a logarithmic scale, noticed something buried in the peaks and troughs. A segment of the pattern matched a known algorithm, one used in Earth-based signal compression. Specifically, a form of discrete cosine transform used in audio encoding. It wasn't a perfect fit, but it was close enough to raise a question no one was ready to answer. Why would the earliest known galaxy echo a mathematical structure from Earth? Theories spiraled: parallel evolution, emergent mathematics, a coincidence born of physics. But something about the gas's behavior felt intentional. The emission didn't just exist. It reinforced itself, like a beacon, holding shape against entropy, like it was built to survive the journey. One physicist whispered a term that hadn't been spoken since the SETI golden years. Beacon logic. Not communication, but discovery. A pattern designed to be recognized, not understood. It didn't say anything. It just existed, loudly, clearly, impossibly, within the earliest structure ever seen, as if it wanted to be found before we even knew how to look. And with each frame enhanced, each line deblurred, the signal sharpened, not into language, but into presence. Something, across time, was radiating order into the chaos, and it had chosen to hide inside a blur. The further they enhanced the light, the less ancient it seemed. Mom Z14, once assumed to be a primordial smudge barely held together by gravity, now showed something terrifyingly elegant. Form, not chaos, not collapse, but shape. AI-assisted reconstructions of the galaxy's light profile began revealing concentric structures, spirals, rings, filaments, that mimicked galaxies over 10 billion years older. Galaxies like the Milky Way that had billions of years to settle, stretch, and arrange themselves into order. But this was a child, a newborn, and yet, it wore the shape of an elder. Something was wrong with the math. Galaxies weren't supposed to have this kind of symmetry so early. Their stars should have been scattered, still colliding, still forming. But Mom Z14 was layered. Tightly packed bands of stars rotating with precision as if tuned. A structure that should have taken eons, already built. The models didn't just fail, they collapsed. Even gravitational simulations, run at cosmic scale, couldn't account for the internal stability without invoking unseen forces or missing epochs. It was as if the galaxy had skipped the usual steps of evolution. No long adolescence, no shapeless youth. It was born, arranged. Some suggested gravitational lensing was tricking the eye, that the curves were illusions, but corrections for lensing only sharpened the symmetry. This wasn't visual error, it was spatial memory, a shape too clean for the time it came from. Others speculated Mom Z14 might be a result of cosmic recycling. A structure born not from this universe's early dust, but from fragments of another. A memory encoded in formation, like a fossil of a previous cosmos given one more chance to shine. But the strangest discovery was the rotational alignment. Mom Z14's disk, unlike others from its epoch, was tilted exactly 23 degrees, matching the obliquity of Earth's axial tilt. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe alignment. The shape wasn't just improbable. It was referential, familiar in ways it had no right to be. And one astronomer, looking at the light curve overlaid with the spiral simulation, muttered the words that silenced the room. It looks like it remembers, a galaxy too young to forget, and too perfect to be accidental. Mom Z14 may not just be an anomaly in space. It may be a message in structure, a design, folded into light. And in its symmetry, the universe may be whispering its oldest secret. That something out there knew how to build galaxies before galaxies knew how to build themselves. Light this old shouldn't speak in patterns. But as scientists stare deeper into Mom Z14, a truth begins to form. Uneven, unsettling, but persistent. This is not just the farthest galaxy we've ever found. It may be the oldest sentence ever written. And we can't read it. Its harmonic pulses, once thought to be a curiosity of gas dynamics, are now mapped against the cosmic microwave background, the static afterglow of the Big Bang. What they find is not a match, but a murmur, a soft resonance, echoes folded across eons, like faint ripples from a voice too ancient to hear clearly. The implication? Mom Z14 may be entangled, not just in space, but in origin. A remnant from a precursor state, a survivor of something older than expansion. Not evolution, but placement. What if this galaxy wasn't formed in the universe? What if it was brought into it? A seed, a relic, a pre-coded archive. Not meant to shine, but to wait, to pulse, to align. Some physicists begin to wonder aloud. Could Mom Z14 be evidence of cosmological inheritance? A hand-me-down, structure carried across cycles of cosmic birth and collapse. Like DNA surviving extinction, carried not in cells, but in light? If so, then Mom Z14 may not be alone. Others might be out there. Not randomly scattered galaxies, but echoes. Notes in a symphony we've only just begun to hear. The story closes not with revelation, but with reverence. We are not being contacted. We are being remembered. And Mom Z14 is not a message meant for humans. It's a monument to something that was here before memory began, before stars were stars, before light had time to forget. A spiral glowing faintly across the black, still waiting